February 23rd, 2017. John's getting ready to do halftime fast money. Gonna hit it up before we do this. What's up, man?
Hey, Andrew. Great to be with you. Thanks for tuning in, folks.
Okay, so Becky Quick got a pretty good interview today. I like that.
Yeah, well, and that was a coup because she got it before any of the other networks, too, which kind of shows the high regard they hold her and the audience that CNBC has, because could have gone over to Bloomberg, could have gone over to Fox, instead did it with us. Love that. I thought there were a couple things that were worth noting, Andrew, in there. I thought some pretty important things anyway out of Mnuchin's speech. And the first was that he said number one issue he has is growth, and that he and Trump discussed this a lot. And the most important thing that will impact growth is the tax plan. So you and I have been talking about that on the podcast, and I'm glad that they are so focused on it. And, of course, since he's Treasury Secretary, he's not going to pick something that has nothing to do with money or, the Treasury Department collecting money or cutting back some of the money that government gets, like with a tax cut. So this is pretty much expected, except it was good to see him and hear him verbalize it.
And it's pretty straightforward information.
Yeah.
Then they'll go on a week from now and say, "I wonder what Trump wants to do." It's like he just said it, today.
It's like his Treasury Secretary just told you what he wants to do. He told you. He's got, by the way, the president has all these CEOs that are in the White House meeting with him, manufacturing CEOs. And I think that's also pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And this isn't like, some of the golden elevator stuff at Trump Tower. This is because these aren't people, trying to get jobs. These are people trying to support their companies and hear what the president has to say and offer him what they know about their businesses and so forth and how much better they can be or so forth. So I thought that was great. And then, the other part, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that along with that interview, I guess Becky Quick asked him to sign a piece of paper, like get an autograph.
Yeah, so she'd know what it's going to look like on the bills.
I know, isn't that cool?
Oh yeah, I mean that is cool. That is, obviously every Treasury Secretary since was it Hamilton, Andrew? Is that your guy?
I don't think he signed the bills. It'd have to be like, I don't know, Franklin made all the money. I know that's a great question. Maybe somebody could leave a comment.
Yeah, if you know, folks, leave a comment.
When did they start signing them? Because I know that Martha Washington and George Washington were on the currency, like at the turn of the century. That crazy stuff. I used to have a banker that collected money. He showed me a bunch of stuff. But when did they start putting Treasury Secretaries' names? I have no clue. That is a good question, though.
But it's been on there now for your lifetime and my lifetime for sure. And let me see, what else did Steven Mnuchin say? And by the way, Andrew, how cool is this, too? So not only did he do Avatar, he was one of the guys that produced Avatar. Not a director, of course, a producer, which means you raise the money for it, right? Okay. But he also did the Lego movies.
Oh, Steven Mnuchin?
Yep.
Really?
I think he did Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, and I think that was a Spielberg movie. I'm not positive, but yeah, he's had a whole bunch of hits, but of course nothing bigger than Avatar, not yet anyway.
That was an expensive movie too.
Yeah, and now they've got several more coming out, and I'm sure he's going to have some production credits on there. He talked about the Mnuchin rule too, which is, he said, we're focused on a middle income tax cut and simplification for business. And those are hugely bullish for the middle class and for business. And he claims that is his focus. And I believe him. I mean, that's where, just like when you and I talk, Andrew, about how's the consumer doing? Well, they're 68 or 70% of the economy is driven by what the consumers do. Obviously, a tax cut to the middle class will be huge. Simplification for business, likewise, huge. So I was very impressed and thought that he answered all of Becky's questions the way that I would like to hear them answered.
Well, there you go. All laid out in front of you. Don't fight the tape, as they say.
That's right.
Now, you did see an unusual trade, speaking of unusual activity in manufacturing.
Right? Yeah. Well, in the IWM, saw a very big trade go off today. And the IWM is the Russell 2000 index. So it's obviously much broader than the S&P 500. It's also smaller cap stocks than the S&P 500. Both of those kind of noteworthy. And we saw a pretty big trade go off, biggest I've seen in weeks, Andrew. It was at the April 135 puts. They bought those for $2.08. Sold the April 120 puts. So 135, 120 makes it a 15-point put vertical. They paid $1.70 for it, I think. And then they sold a whole bunch of upside calls in September to help cut the cost of it. Now, that means that they've got exposure. Yeah, well, or they own an awful lot of small cap. In other words, if, let's say that you were a hedge fund, the most likely type of person to do a trade like this, and that your benchmark was the Russell. So that means that you've probably picked not all 2,000 stocks. You might even only have a couple hundred. But you pick the ones you think are the outperformers within that index. And then to hedge yourself into basically tax time, when sometimes there is a significant, people rolling cash out, tends to mean that they're not as active in buying stocks during that period. At least that's what I've found. And so maybe he just wants to be, or she wants to be protected for that. So if you own the 135 puts, which are about, $3 or $4 out of the money, and you sell the 120 puts underneath it, you have that 15-point band where you could make a lot of money on a very small investment. And then he helped pay for it by selling the upside calls. Now, do I think he sold those calls naked? Probably not. If he owns or she owns the IWM equivalents, then that's like a covered call, right? You own the stocks in the Russell in some percentage, and then you sell upside calls. And then to protect it, you own the downside puts. That's what I think they have on. So I'm not saying it means we have to go down. I think it's somebody who doesn't want to sell, wants to hold, but wants to be in this thing for a while and have some protection at least through April.
Okay. That brings me to our last point, and then we'll end this up, was today when I went over to do the VIX report, which you can watch online, which is already posted, somebody was buying positions out into April. They think that something's going to happen, but not until April. So today's was called April showers. So they're not buying like the weeklies, and they're not buying this month, like they normally buy front, closer to the money. They're going all the way out to April. So it might tie in nicely with that tax thing you got going, but we'll see.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on it.
Right.
And folks, as always, if you tell a friend about the show, we appreciate that. You can sign up for regular alerts. If you do it through iTunes, they'll let you know every time we have a new one up. Same thing with YouTube. Whichever way you like it, we got it. So thank you, Andrew.
All right. Well, have a good show.
All right. Have a great one, everyone.
All right.